Even the devil can quote scripture now, remember that. Mr. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm enormously gratified at this juncture to be a member of the House of Assembly, a member of Parliament, on the occasion of the 51st anniversary of the independence of our country. And I was given yesterday at the flag raising in Fox Hill this gift, which is I guess you call it a wristband, by Charles Kemp, which he markets in the colors of the Bahamian flag. So I encourage you to go out and get it, those of you who are like these kinds of ornaments. And I'm also gratified that both, I'm going to say this for the benefit of those opposite, both my bosses are sitting in the House. And I wanted that for a reason, because both, yeah.
He did identify, that's what I haven't even learning, you know, so.
Well, I'm number 3 is what I know, and this is number 1, numero uno, right? And that's number 2.
Is it the second?
Absolutely.
But it's the Davis administration, right?
You ain't getting me in that, right? It is the Davis administration. But
You had some cannabis.
yes, yeah, plus he had some of those brownies he had. You know? But on the serious note, I'm happy that the Prime Minister's here, because this morning there was a statement which was issued by the side opposite, which really concerns me. And that has to do with this business of always trying to think that there's some separation between what I say on some matter and what he says on some matter. And I take this really seriously, because I've worked with 3 prime ministers, Findling, Christie, yourself, even Ingram, 4 prime ministers. And I have never, ever misspoken a word between what their positions are and mine are. Never, ever. I would never do something like that, and it will never happen. I swear, it never happened. And I asked him, in particular, to be here to put an end to this mischief that is being spun around on these issues. The fact is, there is a serious matter which has to be dealt with the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And the government of the Bahamas takes the matter deadly seriously. The chairman of the Free National Movement issued a statement, and that statement indicated that, I have the exact words somewhere, that the matter of the investigation of this matter should be overseen by investigators brought in from the outside. My position is, and there is no separation on this, that the investigation is being conducted by the Royal Bahamas Police Force. It has the integrity to do so. It has the ability to do an investigation. If expertise is needed from the outside, there's no reason why it has done so in the past. Expertise can be brought in to assist with an investigation.
To assist, not to oversee.
Assist, but not to oversee. And that is the difference between what the chairman of the Free National Movement said and what I said.
You have the statement from the chairman, because I don't remember that statement.
Yeah, I have the statement, the 8th of February. You just look it up, the 8th of February. It's quoted in the newspapers, extensively in the newspapers. That's what he said. And my view is that, I said to the Prime Minister, we discussed this, he spoke to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, explained the government's confidence in their ability to make the investigation, but also made this point, that the Bahamian public expects for a thorough investigation to be done, and that the force itself must reinforce the confidence which the Bahamian people have in it, particularly on this 51st anniversary of our independence. And that's the point we make. The Royal Bahamas Police Force is all that we have. There is no institution that should trash the Royal Bahamas Police Force. There's no benefit to that. And we should support the work and then make sure that their integrity is protected as an institution and as a force. And anyone who seeks to undermine that is simply misplaced. And that's the only point I make.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
Yes, thank you very much. The last statement made by the member for Fox Hill caused me concern. The first portion, we were just going to verify whether or not the chairman said, in fact, what you said. Our clear understanding of what he said was that essentially the Bahamas should enlist help from wherever it can get in order to assist the work that's being done locally. So at no point did I hear the chairman of the Free National Movement, trash any organization in the country, inclusive of the police force. So I'm hoping that that's not what you're saying that he did. And so I just want to clarify before I speak differently.
This is oversee, and that's the point I'm making. And you see, you can be clever by half because you don't have to say those things, but words you use can indicate what you are trying to get at without your saying it. So we want to be clear. We want to be clear. We can't speak for you and what you mean, but we want to be clear that the Royal Bahamas Police Force will conduct the investigation. If they need whatever expertise they need, they can bring that expertise in. But this is a Royal Bahamas Police Force investigation. I asked the minister responsible for the police today, how many people are you recruiting this year? I think it's going to be 100-some.
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
I don't see a ton of daylight between what the chairman of the FNM said and the Prime Minister, which is that he welcomes again input from international agencies in it. So I'm just saying it comes across as if you are seeking to narrow a line of attack on the chairman and the FNM by extension, when in essence there is no fundamental difference. Let me just read the statement that he released. Like many Bahamians, we are shocked to hear disturbing information regarding senior leaders in the Royal Bahamas Police Force today. While we believe in the presumption of innocence for all, the startling contents of the circulated notes have far-reaching implications for many investigations and the public's view of the RBPF in general. While we believe the initial steps taken by the Commissioner of Police are appropriate, it is imperative that public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the Royal Bahamas Police Force be restored. We call on the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security to request the participation of an international law enforcement partner, and he then went on to say, such as, and he named Scotland Yard and the FBI to oversee the investigation. Failing participation in, he says participation in, right? Right. Yeah. No. So you seem to be splitting hairs. His statement seemed not to be different than the Prime Minister. We could pull up the Prime Minister's statement. So, what? No. To participate in, meaning that the government, from our read of this, the read clearly makes the point, participate in, right? And so what? You have a consortium that is looking at a multi-layered challenge. Let me just say, as leader of the Free National Movement, what our position is. We believe that there can be no investigation of any external body without first all of the organs who are constitutionally bound to initiate investigations springing into action. That's clear. In fact, I had an opportunity to speak with colleagues on your side to draw attention to the Police Service Commission and Articles 40 through 43 that already outlines a court 40, yeah. In the Constitution, I'm talking about the Constitution that references Articles 40, that mentions 40 and through 43. So clearly, there's already provisions in law for a course of action to be taken by the government. That is the government acting. To the extent that the government needs additional help, then by all means draw on the additional help. That's what the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas said. So there's no daylight. So we don't want you to, again, characterize the chairman of the FNM in a manner and miss the point made by the Prime Minister himself, who has expressed concern and a desire to make sure that the whole jurisdiction's reputation is protected. So I would say to the member for Fox Hill, there's very little daylight between the Prime Minister and the chairman of the FNM on this matter.
Very little daylight means there is daylight. That's what that means. So.
I'm just guarding against your comment about trashing.
No. You see. Look. That's fine. Yeah, let's say I go along with what you've just said, which I don't. Conceding for the moment, which I don't. Right? But then you come in with this statement this morning, which is totally mischief making. So even if that is not what you meant, the fact is that's the direction you're going in. So I can't speak for you. I'm not seeking to speak for you. I'm just saying what our position is. Our position is that the integrity of the Royal Bahamas Police Force must be protected. That we cannot trash the Royal Bahamas Police Force. That they understand the seriousness of this matter. And that there will be a thorough investigation, that where expertise is needed, that expertise will be called upon. And that is our position. And to seek to characterize it about what am I afraid of and all this other rubbish that was published this morning is just unfortunate. And so I will make it absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. I said to the Minister of National Security, again, 100 young men and women, over 100 young men and women will be recruited to join the Royal Bahamas Police Force. We cannot, as public officials, participate in something which denigrates the Royal Bahamas Police Force. What do you want these kids to join? Something that is that you saying is unworthy of their service? So, in all things, as an independent country, the men and women of the Royal Bahamas Police Force can investigate the matter, and they can investigate it with integrity, and we intend that the integrity of the force is protected no matter what happens going forward. It must be protected, and that is the point we make. And I don't want people making fun about this or trying to make some separation point between members of the government on this issue. And I'm grateful that the Prime Minister attended so I could put a rest to that. I told the press when they asked me about it outside that I have to speak in Parliament because the words I would use to them are simply unprintable if I said it outside. So livid by this nonsense. Every time you try to make some serious point, some junk head is coming here making these foolish remarks. Just crazy. All right. So, this debate that we're joined on today with regard to cannabis is impatient of debate. I am a libertarian in many respects and could not understand for a long time why, when I was in university, what is the difference between the plant tobacco and the plant marijuana? Why is one legal and why is one illegal? But nevertheless, there's a history of why they are and all the rest of it, and that is where we are. And over the years, men and women have been arrested in their numbers for smoking what some people described as the evil weed. Some have gone to jail for long periods of time. Some pay huge fines. Others to this day can't travel to the United States because they smoked 1 or 2 joints when they were 18 and 19. the United States federal jurisdiction has still not changed. So even all that we do, we have to advise people, be careful. The law may have changed in the Bahamas or may change in the Bahamas, but don't try and enter the United States in its federal jurisdiction with any of these drugs, because you'll still be in trouble. So the world, even though it's moved somewhat on this. And what really convinced me about the need to move from this was a long time ago, there was an economist by the name of Milton Friedman, who was looking at the war which the United States was engaging in trying to wipe out drugs in this hemisphere. And when he did the cost-benefit analysis, it turned out that essentially we were just wasting money, spending huge sums of money, putting poison all over the shrubbery in Latin America, putting boats and the corruption that was spreading throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, with very little results to show for it. And one of the things he argued as an economist is that when you create a situation where there is a black market, you actually encourage corruption. And our country has seen the deleterious effects of this legislation. We spent enormous resources trying to stop this, and we haven't stopped it. So he said, doesn't it make sense when you look at the public policy of this to lower the barriers of entry, so to speak, which is to eliminate the criminalization of at least marijuana and deal with the issue of whether you can license its use, and that the state would actually benefit more from that decision than to go in the direction of law enforcement. And that's taken a long time to trickle through. Fortunately, what happened is that it was discovered that there's a medicinal quality and element to the use of this drug. And now things are swinging in the other direction. And thus we have this legislation. There's a photograph which was taken on the 18th of September, 2018, when the then leader of the opposition, Member of Parliament for Cat Island, Rum Key, and Sasau, with a group of us visited the site of an operation in Ocho Rios in Jamaica to see how this actually works in practice. And it's fascinating because the regime is similar to that of the gaming board and gambling. And everything is under lock and key. Everything is tracked. All of the types of marijuana that's grown from the seed, it's labeled, the plant, people are properly searched when they go in, when they come out. They have to be prescriptions. Really fascinating operation to watch. And tracking exactly where the product goes. What became apparent to us is that this would require large sums of capital to set up this establishment. And the Prime Minister adverted to it in his statement this morning, or just before lunch, when he said one of the ironies of passing this legislation is the people who bore the brunt of actually fighting for this to be possible are not the ones who will benefit from it in the short term. Those people who got locked up for the 1 or 2 joints aren't going to be the beneficiaries of the big business which this is going to require.
You could change that.
I don't think the problem is I don't think the country's there yet. We had a commission, and the commission made recommendations. And what we're trying to do as a government is to go as far as our commission has advised us to go, and not to get too far ahead of the country. That's one of the compromises you make when you're a legislator, when you're in public policy.
It's the same principle as
I said what I said. I said what I said. So you can make that point. You can make that point. And maybe coming from you with your religious background, maybe you can sell the country on it. But one of the members of the commission was Reverend Simeon Hall. And he served on the commission by, I believe, by our appointment, the CARICOM Commission. There were hearings here by CARICOM on the issue. There was a large turnout in the Holy Trinity Hall where people came and gave their views. There was a report by CARICOM, which basically goes in the direction that we're now headed. And then, of course, there was a local commission which made its findings. Bishop Simeon Hall has been in the press since this came forward and talked about how his own views have evolved on the subject. So in supporting this legislation this afternoon, I merely want to say that, one, I support it unequivocally, that I congratulate the Minister of Health for the yeoman's work which he's done in plotting and organizing and getting this through, the drafting by the Attorney General to ensure that we have this bill which covers all the bases as far as we can go now. And to say that this is moving in the right direction, a direction which I think the Bahamian people can support and which I'm proud to say on behalf of the people of Fox Hill that I support. That is all that really needs to be said. As I said, I can use the expression, it's impatient of debate. And I think back to those college days, you know, in Oliver Twist, Charles Dickens went back to an old expression and he said, you know, the law is an ass. The law is an ass is what he said. Because, again, you can't see the distinction between one plant and the next plant. But for historical reasons, we are where we are. But today, the Progressive Liberal Party has made a progressive step in ensuring that we've moved the needle a few degrees in the right direction. Before sitting down, I want to address one other issue. And that is, over the last week or so, we've had a number of cases of Bahamian citizens who've been detained at the airport in Panama, having traveled there on vacation. This is not a new issue, but for some reason there's been I call it an avalanche of these cases, about 5, 6, or 7 of these people calling desperately from the airport and their relatives, calling the foreign ministry and the honorary consul in Panama to be rescued from the airport. So the situation, as I understand it, is that the Republic of Panama has a relationship or an agreement with the government of the United States, which shares information with the government of Panama about people who've committed offenses or may have been arrested for offenses in the United States of America. So when you land in Panama and they put your name through the system and your name comes up, you're ineligible to land in Panama. And you are to be put on the next flight back to the Bahamas. Unfortunately, the flights, I think, are just 3 times a week. So they don't put you in a detention center. They keep you at the airport. And as soon as the next flight is available, they put you on that flight back to Nassau. In a couple of cases over the last week, our honorary consul has been able to negotiate with the Panamanian authorities to allow people to go to another destination, because there are flights available to Jamaica or to Trinidad. But in some cases, the Panamanian authorities have refused to do this. So a couple of things we wanted to do. One is to advise Bahamian citizens that if you have knowledge of such a record in the United States, do not travel to Panama, because that is going to be the result. Secondly, we're thinking that it's probably appropriate to speak with the airline, because it seems to me a little odd that an airline does not warn passengers about this, but they take your money as you fly there knowing that there's this possibility. You should actually warn people before you accept their money and fly them on your aircraft. So we have to speak to them and find out if appropriate warnings should be placed at the airport to prevent people from doing this and on their websites. And then thirdly, we have to ask the Panamanian authorities themselves, why is this necessary? If somebody's not committed a crime in your own country and is not in that country and not suspected for committing a crime, we certainly don't impose that on persons coming in from Panama who are Panamanian citizens coming into the Bahamas. Why would you not reciprocate the same civility and courtesy to Bahamian citizens? So that's on our agenda, and I wanted to just say that publicly before I sat down. That says it for me, Mr. Leader. If there's anything, basically I covered it. And once again, I want to affirm on this, our 51st anniversary of our independence, how grateful I am to serve in this place on behalf of the people of Fox Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many